Welcome to Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. This podcast was created for the boomer woman leaving corporate, and now you're looking to reinvent yourself, become an author, an entrepreneur, a podcaster. Well, each episode will leave you with clarity. You will come away with the yes, I can and yes, I will reinvent myself mindset. So come on, let's do this. I'm your host, Margot Levette. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back. Another episode, Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. Have you ever thought about how you stand out with the crowd as far as your industry goes? How about enhancing your online presence? You know, that's something that all entrepreneurs, speakers, authors, we all want to do that. We're always looking for ways to really stand out head and shoulders and get noticed. Well, today's guest, we're going to talk about LinkedIn, and it's a strong knowing that she has that LinkedIn is an underutilized platform, and she can use it to enhance our online presence. And there are some simple techniques that she's going to share with us so that we can really, as I like to say, fall in love with LinkedIn and use it because it's a powerful tool. Today's guest is Linda Waterhouse, and she simplifies, demystifies digital marketing to small businesses, coaches, consultants, so that they can gain and clarify, take action, and increase their revenue. Isn't that what we all want to do also? She's currently sharing techniques for using LinkedIn to generate an endless stream of clients. She's a co-author of Turn Knowledge into Profits and is featured in the 3rd edition of the Ultimate Guide to LinkedIn for Business. She is a 2018 top 25 New Jersey leading women entrepreneur, brand builder. And when she's not working, Linda can usually be found biking, hiking, outside with her dog. So, Linda, thank you for coming in and sharing your knowledge with us today.
Oh, my pleasure, Margot. You know how excited I am about LinkedIn.
Well, I tell you what, I've been on LinkedIn a couple of years, and I'm not quite as excited as you are because you are the expert lady, but I love the energy because you not only are in love with LinkedIn, but your energy is about LinkedIn, and everything that's flowing from you is all about LinkedIn. So let's just dive right in. First of all, I want you to break it down because we may have somebody who's not really familiar with LinkedIn. What is LinkedIn all about? Is it a search engine? And then who should really pay attention to LinkedIn?
Well, in a lot of ways, anybody in business should be looking at LinkedIn as a way to enhance their online reputation and presence. LinkedIn is the only social media platform that is directly related for business. A lot of people say that Facebook is like your backyard barbecue, and LinkedIn is like your networking meeting. You want to be a little bit personal, but in a business-like way, if that makes sense. So you have to think about it's as if you were at a face-to-face networking event, like your Chamber of Commerce or something. You want to be friendly and social, yet still stay professional. So you wouldn't be, posting pictures of your lunch or anything on LinkedIn, but, more about what kind of, work activities you were doing, things that you'd like to share that you feel like people who are your peers or your ideal clients would be interested in, just to make sure that you stay out there and top of mind.
Mm-hmm. So you're really building your professional presence, your professional footprint is placed on social media, correct?
Exactly. And what a lot of people don't realize is that LinkedIn has great, what I call searchability. And what that means is that everything in LinkedIn is indexed by Google to the point where almost everybody that I Google, and we should all be Googling ourselves so that we know what shows up when people search for us, that our LinkedIn profile comes up on the first page almost every time. And in fact, when I Google you, Margot, your LinkedIn profile comes up your number one spot.
Yeah.
So what that means is that, or I should kind of step back, is that most people Google the people that they're going to meet with if they haven't met them yet.
Mhm.
And I do that all the time. And it kind of took me by surprise to realize that people were Googling me as well. So then I had to Google myself to find out just what showed up if somebody was looking for me.
Yes.
So since our LinkedIn profiles come up so high, they are quite often used as a first impression. And whether it's a good first impression or a not so good first impression kind of depends on how much effort we put into creating our LinkedIn profile.
You know what? I'm taking notes as you speak because that is so very, very true. Since this is our professional footprint and we all are on social media and come up on page one, when you told me that, Linda, I was amazed because I'm always Googling, but then I dig deeper and I go into a person's website and all of that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
it's important that we pay attention, we manicure and we create that profile because that's our first impression. Is that the reason why LinkedIn is so very important to us as far as getting our books sold, getting so that the world takes note of us? Is that one reason why LinkedIn is so very important these days?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're trying to do something like sell your book, obviously you need a multi-pronged approach. Just putting it on LinkedIn isn't going to, sell you tons of books, but it is definitely one of the places where you need to be because, as you know, as a podcaster, when somebody publishes a book, there's quite often interviewers who are interested in that book and they like to talk to authors and help promote. So I'll give your listeners the first tip. If you have published a book or authored a book, you should put an image of that book in your LinkedIn cover photo.
Mhm.
I've talked to many people who haven't really looked at their LinkedIn profile since they created it many years ago, and they weren't even aware that there is a cover photo. So there's your profile picture, which should be a professional headshot of you, your face, so that people can know, like, and trust you. Um, but then there's a large piece of real estate behind that is called a cover photo that can be kind of a conglomerate or a collage of different images that can shortly convey what you're all about.
And it does. A lot of people use that. And you spoke to something that really caught my eye also. I found that a lot of people, even people that I know, they just put a few things up on that profile, or even it's as though they just started their LinkedIn presence, and then they just abandon it, which is
Mm-hmm.
something that I did up to a couple of years ago. I didn't realize how important it is and profitable it is to be over on LinkedIn. So long story short, what I hear you saying is that we come up on page, that profile comes up on page one. That's the first impression. We need to make sure that we keep our profile, LinkedIn profile, polished, manicured. We need to make sure that we use all of the real estate that's over there on LinkedIn so that people can really get the full picture of who we are, what we're doing, and why they should reach out to us. Am I hearing you correctly?
Yes, and in fact, I'm taking a look at your LinkedIn profile right now, and you do an excellent job of of conveying a lot of information with just a short, without even words. You have your profile picture has a picture of you with your headphones on,
Mm-hmm.
so that I may not know that you're a podcaster, but I know you're definitely into, some sort of audio. And at this point, I don't know whether you could be a DJ, who knows. But then I look at your background photo and you have image of your book.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really pleased to see that. And doesn't say podcast right there, but then, right then in your headline, you have, I reinvented to become a podcaster, author, and entrepreneur. That's the next best thing that you did, was you customized your headline.
Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So the headline are the words that come underneath your name on your profile. And the default headline is your job title and your company, which really is not that distinguishable. It it puts us in the realm so that people know what we do, but there's often so many other people that do similar things to us
Mm-hmm.
that we need to use that headline to differentiate ourselves, to show how we're unique and how we may be different and who we serve, so that people can take a look at that and say, hey, she helps people like me. I'm going to contact her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Linda, do you find that we need to have that profile read like a resume, or should we put it out so that we show people how we can help them? How do we construct that? Which way is most appropriate?
Well, you bring up a very good point, because most of the time, if people did their LinkedIn profile, 5, 6, 10 years ago, it does read like a resume, and you can kind of tell. LinkedIn is not just for job seekers anymore, although it's still very actively used that way. There are many other business people who are using LinkedIn after they have a job, and even if they're happy in their job, to connect with people who they can collaborate and partner with,
Mm-hmm.
or they can use it for lead generation. For example, how did we meet?
Right here
Uh,
on LinkedIn.
right here on LinkedIn. I sent out a connection request, and I don't know if we're ready for the little hints and tips, but I know I'm sprinkling them in. Tell me if you want to wait for
Let's
these.
do it. No, let's do it as these ideas flow from you and these tips flow from you. Let's feed the people.
Well, I'm going back on the messages that we sent to one another, and just this is just like the perfect way that I would hope anything would go. So I reached out to you to connect, you accepted, and then what I like to do is start a conversation with my connections.
Yes.
The idea is not just to, you know, hoard my connections, but to actually get to know them a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I always send some kind of an icebreaker. And for you, I asked you, what's one thing that you'd like to share that I wouldn't find on your LinkedIn profile? And then I shared my story, that I learned how to drive on a track. I love tractors because I learned how to drive on a tractor when I worked on a farm many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you picked up on that, and you told me that you bought a car that was a stick shift when you didn't even know how to drive it. And
True story.
your dad had to drive it home, and it took
Yeah.
you a week before you could drive your own car.
So
And I
true.
love hearing things like that. And so, like we both felt like we knew, just a teeny bit about each other. But then you were very proactive, and you said, perhaps we can schedule a phone chat. And I said, great, I'd love to chat with you. And we chatted, and you were kind enough to invite me to be on this podcast. So that's the way it happens.
Yes, just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly. And as you stated, that's the sequence of things you like to. I don't like to reach out to people and just fire hose them. I'm very enthusiastic about and selective about people who get on this show. Everybody knows that by now. But when I like to find out who is this person behind the profile. Let me hear their voice. And you are so enthusiastic, and your energy is so good concerning LinkedIn and what it's all about. It was a no-brainer. After we had that conversation, it was a no-brainer. Ask the lady to come on to the show. Hey, the world has to hear about her, what's going on, So
Oh, thank
that's
you.
how things go. But people have to understand it can be just that way. You don't just approach a person and buy this and buy that, and you don't even know them. That's a
Right.
real turn
Mhm.
off. So,
Oh, completely. Yeah. Hmm.
well, let me
Right. It's like going to the networking group, and you hate it when people just kind of shove their business card in your face and you don't even know them. So
Mhm.
you think about how much you hate that. So try to be something different.
Yes, yes, because this is a virtual network meeting place. And
Hmm.
if we approach LinkedIn that way, then we'll always be conscious about what we display on our what we post. We'll always have our why. Why are you even reaching out to that person? That's something that I always pay attention to. And what's the end result? what are you looking for? You just want to have a conversation? You're just curious, as I always am? Or do you really want to ask them to be a part of the conversation on Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation, which led to really pursuing and reaching out to you? My question, and this is something that I don't think that I got to, how come you're so interested in LinkedIn? How is it that this is your thing? How did you become so interested?
Oh, well, that's a very interesting journey also. I am a digital marketing strategist. So basically, my business does websites, search engine optimization. I do social media strategies, some paid ads, whether on Google or Facebook. And so we kind of do a lot of different things because there's so much that encompasses digital marketing these days.
Mm-hmm.
But what I found is that I am so curious. I feel like I need to know a lot about everything. Otherwise, I don't feel comfortable saying, that I do it. But there's so much to digital marketing these days that I just can't keep up with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you've heard the phrase, the riches are in the niches, and that we need to focus on one thing in order to be successful.
Yes.
And I was looking at that one thing as being digital marketing, but that one thing became too big itself. Mm-hmm. So then I said, well, I'm going to try focusing on one part of digital marketing. And so I said, well, social media, because I feel like people really don't understand how to use social media effectively. But even that was too big because, how many social media platforms are there? Mm-hmm. So then I saw that LinkedIn was bought by Microsoft 3 years ago, and it was really changing. And you can really use it as your content platform, meaning that LinkedIn can now hold video, audio, white papers, presentations, like every kind of content that you can imagine, that it can become like your personal website. Mm-hmm. And I just saw it as an opportunity, and I really believed in it. And I have to admit that Facebook was kind of, in the news a lot for the bad things that they were doing. So I didn't want to become another Facebook person. So LinkedIn was just a natural fit for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm just thrilled because I can say that since I've focused on LinkedIn, I'm getting contacted more for, being invited to be part of the Ultimate Guide to LinkedIn book. I've been asked to be interviewed. I'm being asked to speak more often because people know more about what I do. So I am just encouraging other business owners out there not to be afraid of niching down, because I did, and the opportunities are just exploding for me.
Oh, wow. That's important that you said that, because we can't be all things to, as they say, to all men. Some people still believe that, and they take this shotgun approach, and it's just not effective, because as you said, they actually, at the end of the day, there's no way that we can know everything, even about podcasting. It is growing and exploding. So you have to niche down and gain your territory and hold it like that. So I'm just thinking, I'm wondering, what is it like to actually work with Linda Waterhouse, to take you on and say, help me get up to speed with my LinkedIn profile, and what's that like to work with you, ma'am?
Well, right now I am working one-on-one with clients. I have a couple of different kind of VIP sessions, I call them. And the first level is a VIP session where we basically focus on the person's profile. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we invert it, as I say. Most people, and this is absolutely the right way, and this is the process. When we write our profiles, we write it from what I call an I perspective. I do this, I do that, I have done this. It's all I. Mm-hmm. And we have to think about we have to think about changing our wording and adding the so that's. And what I mean by that is we need to change it around so that our profile has more U's than I's,
Mm-hmm.
and so that people understand what you can do for them. They don't really care if you won, all these awards, or that you were the top, performer in your sales team. They want to know what that means for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more quickly and concisely that you can pinpoint who you help, what problems you solve, and how their life will be different after working with you, the better people will be at understanding why they should work with you. So I ask people a lot of the so that's, so you're a podcaster, Margot,
Mm-hmm.
that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Why would that matter to somebody like me that you're a podcaster?
Wow. That gives you more exposure, opportunity to get the word out about how you are changing the world and helping people.
Exactly. So you have turned it into something that I would be interested in. If I hear that you're a podcaster, oh, that's very interesting. But when you just said that, that made me lean in. That made me think, oh, not only is Margot a podcaster, but she might be able to help me.
Mm-hmm.
And so people will be approaching you to collaborate, to partner, so that you can help each other. I definitely believe in, mutually beneficial arrangements.
Yes, yes, me too. Me too. That's interesting that you said that change it around because I've read profiles and so even, I mean, even some of the posts, I change it around to how you can help other people. Isn't that why we're in business anyway? Isn't that why we do what we do anyway? That,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
that's interesting that I'm, gosh, when we get ready to go ahead and have this show ready for download and that type of thing, I wrote down those three points, and I'm going to make sure that I push that out to people, because if we can get that across to people in our profile, that's powerful. And that's the way profiles should be written and should be sent out to the world, correct?
Yes, yes. It's like I am, okay, for example, say somebody was a top salesperson
Mm-hmm.
in their department. So I myself am a little bit leery initially hearing that somebody is a top salesperson, because there's a part of me that kind of feels uneasy, like they know these magic words that are going to make me want to buy from them or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I might even push them away, subconsciously. But if they changed it around that, you know, I I'm going to use real estate, for example, that I have sold, the most houses in my area. And that means that I understand what the families are looking for and am able to match them the best.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of brings a different perspective that, it's not just that this person is a top salesperson, but she helps match the family's needs with the housing and the towns that they want. So that is what I really care about, not the fact that she sold so many. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. You're still taking it back to how you're helping somebody and why they should get in contact with you.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. I, I had, gosh, this, at first I thought this was going to be a simple subject, but you've niched it down. But I see how LinkedIn really is a broad subject. At least to me, it's still a very broad subject. Who is your ideal client then? And how do you pick them? Because you are niched down and you are a lady well sought out. How do you choose who you're going to work with?
Well, first, I want to make sure that people understand that it's not a one and done deal.
Mm-hmm.
When what I mean by that is that it's an ongoing process. It's not like they're going to write their LinkedIn profile and then all these people are just going to suddenly come swarming and wanting to work with them. Um, the first part is to go over the profile, and I have a 17 item list that we audit on people's profiles.
Wow.
And I want to make sure that people understand that if they sign up for the Done With You service, that they are going to have the time available to do the work themselves, because it takes time to figure out a good headline. It takes time to write your 2,000 character.
It does. It takes time. It really,
that
really does.
that you set aside the time.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me so upset when I work with somebody and they understand all this, and then I check back on their profile a month later and nothing's changed.
Mm-hmm.
So and we had a great conversation. So I want to make sure that I work with people who are willing to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And then after they have their profile set up, and so it is client facing, then if they want to be more active on LinkedIn, then I have a follow-on session where we talk about how do you find people to connect with? How do you use LinkedIn's search capabilities to find those people? How do you connect with them? How do you create messages that sound like you and not like everybody else? And so people who are willing to do that. I do have a Done For You service where I will interview somebody and write their LinkedIn profile for them.
Mm-hmm.
But even when we do that, again, that is just the first phase. And if they really want to become more active on LinkedIn, then we'll have to make sure that people set aside the time to do that.
Gotcha.
I really like working with small business owners, coaches, and consultants, because I feel like I understand where they're coming from so that I can draw out what they'd be good at and how they can help their clients.
Mm-hmm. Even with that, you've niched it down. You are
Mm-hmm.
not the lady for everybody as far as getting these profiles together. Linda, what's your preference on both services? You say that a person has to have the time to do the work, so that tells everybody that you are results oriented. You're not just out to have that client come on and pay the money, and they don't do anything with it. You're ready for that. So, are you a stronger advocate of a person actually doing it themselves, working with you and doing it themselves, or are you stronger advocate of a person allowing you to do it, that work?
Well, I'll tell you ideally, and then I'll tell you the reality. Mm-hmm. Ideally, I feel like people's voices come across the best when they write it themselves. Mm-hmm. That being said, I completely understand that some people, either they don't have the time, the inclination, or the resources to write. And that's why I do offer the Done For You service. And we try as much as possible to write in that person's voice, and we welcome edits. But I do feel like it's best if the person themselves writes it. But as I said, I do understand some people just don't have the time, or they want to have the time, but then they just don't. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, then we'd be happy to do it. I just want to make sure that they present their best self to the world on LinkedIn. So that's why I offer both services.
Wow, that makes sense. I was asking a question because I was thinking about business plans. People pay top dollars to get those business plans together. They get before the banker and they're because they didn't write it. That makes a really big difference. So that's what I kind of thought when it came to working with you. We could go on and uncover other layers concerning how to really present and get the most out of being on LinkedIn. But I want people to know how to understand how to get in contact with you. And we're going to, you know what? Hold on. I'm sorry. I did forget one thing. And this is something new that I decided I wanted to introduce and close out with everybody. Brand new here, everybody. Brand new. 2 questions. Let's ask Linda, what is her favorite food?
Oh, Margot, what's really funny is that I was having this conversation with my daughter the other day, and we are just not a family of favorites. That so much is situational. Like, we don't have favorite restaurants, favorite movies. Like, it just depends on our mood. But I will tell you that I accompanied my husband on a business trip to Brussels recently. And
Oh.
I have to say that the way that they make mussels in Brussels was amazing. I didn't
Uh-huh.
even know. And it's so funny that it rhymes, but I love the because Brussels is also, known for their Belgian beer. So they make the mussels in this delicious Belgian beer with garlic and butter and the sauce that is just mouth-watering. And that was definitely my favorite food there. So I still have that on my mind.
I love it. I love it. And the final question is, what book are you reading, or what podcast are you listening to these days?
Well, I just started this book called Radical Forgiveness by Colin Tipping.
Mm.
And this could be a whole nother conversation. Um, like most people, there are some relationships that I feel I want to work on and heal. And the concept of forgiveness is, it's not a simple one, because I, like many other people, kind of had the idea that if I forgive somebody, it means that what they did is okay.
Mhm.
And those are two very, very different concepts. And so I've been exploring the concept of forgiveness lately.
Wow.
And somebody suggested this book to me, and I've just started it, but it is a radical way of looking at forgiveness. So I'm really, really curious to see where the book goes.
Well, sounds like we need there. When we look around, there's a lot of room for forgiveness in this world. So, thank you for sharing that with us. Others will catch up with that. We'll get a copy of that also, I'm so sure. But in wrapping up this wonderful conversation with Linda Waterhouse, let everybody understand and know how they can get in contact with you.
Well, the easiest way is to email me at info@lindawaterhouse.com. And that's just Linda Waterhouse, water and house, nothing fancy about that. Or you can call me at 908-679-9976.
Wow. This has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. As we listened, Linda gave us so much information, and I hope everybody listens more than one time, because I mean, from beginning to the very end, she has given us information concerning how we can really stand out and be found on LinkedIn. That's how Linda and I connected. We shared the story, and it's very real. And it's happening every day. So contact Linda Waterhouse and get that profile together, especially if you are a consultant, you are a coach, you are a small business owner. You need this lady. She just really, she has so much information and so much enthusiasm. There's no way we could have contained everything in this short amount of time. So you want to reach out to her,
Can
Linda.
I add one more thing? I'm so sorry. I
No, go
forgot the most important thing. Please
ahead.
connect with me on LinkedIn, of course.
Wait a minute. I'm going on. I didn't catch it either. LinkedIn, Linda Waterhouse on LinkedIn.
Yes.
You have a
Hmm.
wonderful presentation there. Your profile is it. I was looking at it again this morning. It's like, yeah. And you know what? If I were someone who had, and I hate to say raggedy, maybe that's not the right wording, but if my profile was not really up to snuff, go over there and take a look at what Linda, how she has hers set up, and see whether or not you can mimic it before you even reach out to her. Just a little hint, because I think, and Linda, and I just want to find out, these profiles are to be worked on as we grow in our business, as we move about in our industries, correct?
Yes, and that's what I was alluding to before, that if we do a headline and we're not getting the kind of interest or the type of people that we are wanting to do business with, then we need to be willing to, sit back and revise it and try again.
Gotcha. See, from beginning to end, she's giving us information. Wow. Well, once again, I thank you, Linda. And I thank you, audience, for taking a listen. Reach out to Linda. And As I always have to say, it's hard for me to say goodbye, but I'm going to sign off right now, and I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening. In the meantime, bye-bye.
Thank you, Margot.
No problems. I want to thank you for listening to Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. Couple of things that I want you to do right now. Go to my website, pick up a copy of Her Business, Her Voice, Her Reinvention, how I went from game show hopping to international show host, author, and speaker in 1 year. Number 2, please freely listen to each and every episode. Share them out with your family, friends, the men in your lives. And then number 3, get in contact with me, one of the experts that have been on the show, because I want to make sure that you reinvent yourself. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode here on Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation.